Hi, my name is Kira, and this is Kira of All Trades on Phresh Phactory TV. Thank you so much for coming to the show. Thank you for joining me today. And today, our topic is careers in data. This episode is dedicated to the hardworking folks on the data team at Phresh Phactory Inc. who are holding it down, making sure that every piece of information for anybody who needs it gets into their system and their database accurately, quickly. So if you are in need of any data services, please feel free to work out any kind of needs here at Phresh Phactory Inc. We'll be glad to take care of them. The website is www.freshfactory.com. Hit the button that says sign up for an interview, and we'd be glad to talk to you about your needs. So, as careers in data go, we have to start out by talking about what is data. So, the definition of data in general is information. Any piece of information. Depending on what your system is, if your system is your brain, then data is any piece of information that you have that's going into it. So if it's your brain, you got information that's coming in through your ears, your eyes, your smell, all of that. So in businesses of a technology type, data are pieces of information that are somewhere that they want. So there are a few different careers that one could have in the data realm that would be really influential, and probably jobs that will last for quite a bit of time into the future. And we're going to talk about them now. So one of the first careers that are important in the data realm are data miners, miners. I'm making sure to spell it because sometimes my accent doesn't make it easy to hear every single word. So a data miner. This is a person just like if they're doing any kind of mining. This could be a miner for gold. What are they doing? They are looking for this valuable resource around a bunch of other resources that are not as valuable. So you wouldn't want to say that if someone's looking for gold that dirt is not valuable. Dirt has its value. But in this case, if you are looking for gold, then dirt is not as valuable. So if you are a miner, you are getting rid of the excess information, which would be the dirt, and you're making sure to get to what you are looking for, which is the gold. So here in the data realm, as far as careers are concerned, a data miner would be a person who is digging through different information and getting to the golden tickets that they need. They're getting to the important information that they need in order to put it and start it as part of this sequence that data has to go through in systems, platforms, apps. It has to begin with this data miner. The miner has to find the information that is required in order to start the system moving. So, what is the data miner's main function? They take this information that they found, and then they untangle it and they place it. Like, those are the ways that data miners are going to contribute to the system. So if they find a large swath of data, they're going to untangle it, and then they're going to make sure that they again get the important things, and then they're going to make sure that they get it into the place that it needs to be. So if this type of information belongs on this app or this platform or this, they are going to find what they need so that it can be where it needs to be. Next, you probably have seen this position a lot of times in a lot of different areas. And really, it's probably the most prevalent because almost every type of business needs this type of career to be fulfilled at their organization. It is a data entry clerk. So people normally see data entry clerks in, like I said, almost every area, every environment, because in order for you to take this information that the data miner has found and get it to these places where it belongs, it needs to come from this external area and now it needs to come into the internal area. Um, some examples of a data entry clerk are, I remember having a job at one time where I worked for a bank, and the bank had checks that came through. And the checks had a certain amount on it, obviously. And what we were to do was to take the amount that was on the check and then also the written amount that was on the bottom of the check, also verify that those were the same, and then take that information and enter that data into their database. So they have the check. They also have the amount that's written on the check, and they also have the amount that is written out on the check. So we are still there to verify this information is accurate as data entry clerks. So look at it, make sure that that information jives, make sure there's not like letters or weird things that don't make any sense. So there is another human part that's required in data entry, which is, does this make sense? You need to be able to accurately duplicate this information and put it to the system that's required. But when you're entering this data, does it make sense for you to enter it? Are you entering it accurately? These are all the skills and steps that are taken in data entry as a data entry clerk. So there are plenty of areas where a data entry clerk is the person that is involved in taking this information and putting it to the place that it belongs, but it's almost something that you can't skip. So although there are different apps, there's different software, there's different technological advances that have been made to maybe lessen the human portion that's needed for this, in many cases, you cannot skip the human altogether. And as much as we love technology, there is just a component that a human will always have to participate in order to verify accuracy, in order to take information from the external and put it into the internal of that system. There will come a time where this data entry clerk will be the responsible party. And they're a very important step because if you want to make sure that you have information in the system that matches what you're requiring, you have to get it from the external to the internal of that system. And the very important step or person that's involved is a data entry clerk. And that seems to be a career that, from my knowledge, is still in great demand and probably will be for a very long period of time. So now we have the next step. So we've gone and gotten this information. We have mined for this data. We've gone out and found the information that needs to be brought in. Then the data entry clerk has put that information where it belongs, whether it belongs in a certain system, app, software, piece of paper, spreadsheet, whatever the case may be. That information has been entered by this data entry clerk. So who's next? There are a couple positions that in the career realm are sometimes put together and then sometimes separated just based on skill. So the next step, if we're going up the ladder, would be a data analyst. Sometimes this is a quality assurance, quality control person. You'll sometimes see it abbreviated as QA/QC. And what they do is to ensure that this information that's coming into the system, that's either going somewhere or that's being aggregated or looked at as a whole, is accurate. This quality assurance, quality control person looks at this information overall to ensure that there is not information being put into the system that can't be used. So if they're looking for information being put into a system that's all numbers, if they see letters, they'll know that this is inaccurate. Quality control and quality assurance doesn't have to necessarily be in the technological realm. It doesn't have to be technology based at all. There is quality assurance and quality control in almost every area of everything. So if you're buying apples, if it's leaving from a farm, there's going to be a quality control, quality assurance person who is going to look and make sure that there's not a rotten apple that's going from the farm to its next destination. And although there are components of the system that allow sorting before it gets to the human person, you will see that many times this person will still have plenty of work because there will be a bad apple, for instance, in this scenario, that has gotten past where it's supposed to, and it's up to the person to control the quality and assure the quality. So these are two very important portions of in this realm of data that are really important, because as we speak next about other positions, a data analyst, if these are not separate careers altogether, will need to make sure that they have quality data in order to analyze. So next, we're going to talk about the next career, which is a data analyst. So this makes all the sense. What does an analyst do? They analyze things. They look at things and they find information based on the information. They find a greater sense of like patterns or information based on the data that they've received in. So for instance, if we have a large swath of data, meaning hundreds of thousands, millions of pieces of information, what the data analyst then does is they take all of this information and they do many things, but two very important things. They gather the data all together and they look at it as a whole. One important thing that they do in almost every scenario is create reports. This is the simplification of information in order to be able to give this understanding out to others. Sometimes you'll read this in white papers where it'll say, this is a chart of all of the information that they receive. We've done, hundreds of thousands of tests, and 10 of them were good and 900,990 of them were bad. So this is something that a data analyst will do. They will look at information or data points overall, and they will look for patterns and try to see how it is that they can summarize all of these this large quantity of data and make it make sense into reports. They also ensure that once all this data is gathered, that it's put together in a way that is simplified and streamlined, and that information can be captured and kept. It's kind of like the analysis includes a time period. It's information as of that period. So it's based on the information they've received and not necessarily what may be happening in the future. It is based on what is in hand today. Now, when you're reporting on information, what you need is, as I mentioned, several data points. You need to be able to understand what you're seeing. You need to be able to understand what patterns exist. You need to be able to figure out what's the same, what's different, why, and the nuances between that. So if you are naturally a person that sees patterns, if you are naturally a person that can differentiate small differences, kind of like a perfectionist kind of person who can see, oh, this is kind of off to the left and this picture behind me is hanging off a little bit that way and it needs to be straight, then maybe a career as a data analyst is something for you. Because if you have tons of data points, sometimes it's a very small change. Sometimes you can have pieces of data that are charts. Sometimes you can have pieces of data that are numbers, but they're numbers that are within a span, for instance. And maybe there's one number that is off by a point one. And everything else seems to make sense. It's, got a range to it. But this one is off by point one. Those are the types of things that data analysts see when maybe in general it's within a certain um, area that makes sense, but it's just off to the analyst. There are again different softwares and different platforms, apps and things like that can find those. But as an analyst, as a person that does data analysis, you will be very important in being able to find those nuances, either to find out what is the differentiating factor or to be able to find out what things all go together. All of these are in this package and these are all in this package, but then we got this one little outlier. This is very important information, because whenever you gather a large swath of data, you're able to streamline the explanation of it, and this information going forward becomes very useful. So we had the data miners who went out to go get the information. Then we have the data entry clerk who's able to put this accurate information into a system, and they're able to be the first ones who are discerning whether or not that information that's going into the system is where it belongs. And then we have the data analyst who's taking this large swath of data, which is all of these pieces of information that have come in, and then they're able to aggregate them and gather all these pieces of data, then find the patterns and then report. And then along the way, we also had the quality assurance and the quality control person who was making sure that before it was analyzed that it was accurate and that all of the results that they're going to see or that are in are up to a certain standard that are required. Then next, we have a person like me, which sometimes they have a different name, and this name doesn't actually even have data in it. But it's in the data realm because again, data just means information, a piece of information or lots of pieces of information. Is a business intelligence analyst. So, what is a business intelligence analyst? What this person does is they take all of the information that has come down the data stream, those reports, those pieces of data, those quality portions of data that have been entered into the system, and they use all of this information to explain how to improve the overall outcomes of an organization. This is quite important to have a broad view of your outcome. So, what do you want to do? You need to know what your outcome is. I want to improve something. I want to improve an organization. I want to improve what's happening in this area. What do I want to do? And once you have that under control and know what you're looking for, you take the internal data that you received as well as go find external data. This is to compare to. So if all of the apples coming off of this farm in this climate are all green and very few of them are red, and another farm in this exact same climate in this same zip code has the opposite, then what do we need to do in order to increase the yields of the other colored apple, for instance, in this example? What do we need to do to improve the outcome of said organization? Every organization has a very different goal, but the word improve definitely means to make something better. So there's lots of ways to make things better. And although a business intelligence analyst has to use the broad stroke of improvement to be able to explain what they found, they have to be able to take the information that's gathered and digest it, and then also go out to find more information from the external, take it in and digest it, and then be able to make comparisons to figure out what then needs to change in order to get to the outcome that you're looking for. So if your outcome is going to be to improve whatever area, you'll need to find out internal information, external information, compare the two, draw a conclusion, and then be able to extrapolate what is it that you'll need to see in order to ultimately get to improvement. These things are very much a flow state. You'll need to have good data that's coming into the system. That data will need to be verified. Someone will be able to analyze this information and streamline it to a point where you will then be able to take this information and compare it with external and internal and figure out what to do next in order to get an overall improvement. Data is super important. I don't see it going anywhere, and I see that careers where people can draw conclusions based on information presented will be important going forward. Most importantly, thank you to everyone on the Phresh Phactory Inc. data team who has inspired this episode. It's super important to understand what is going on in the background of, your social media apps or at your mom and pop shop. It doesn't matter what kind of business it is. There are pieces of information. There are people who are analyzing it. There are apps that are doing some of the work. And the main thing is, if the overall goal is improvement, there is room to do so. But I just haven't seen it done where there's no human interaction that's necessary. So careers and data are here and probably will continue to grow lots going forward. And you can go and do some research online to find out for yourself just exactly where careers in data could take you. So I would consider this to actually be part one. I will go ahead and continue on to careers in data probably much later, because the field of data is wide, and especially in the technology realm can take you pretty far if that's the realm that you plan on being in. So again, thank you so much for coming to the show today. This is Kira of All Trades on Phresh Phactory TV. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Fire TV, that's Amazon, Roku. You can listen to us on all the major audio platforms. Just make sure to check us out. The show comes out on Sundays at 7 p.m. everywhere. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, if you have any questions, comments, be sure to send us an email, info@freshfactory.com. If you're interested in working with us, you're looking for some employment, you like to work contract, whatever the situation is, please feel free to visit www.freshfactory.com. Click the button that says sign up for an interview, find a time that works for you, and register. If you are a company that is looking to hire, that you need someone to do great data analysis for you, if you have any other business that you would like some assistance with, we'll be glad to speak with you. Again, visit www.freshfactory.com, hit the button, sign up for an interview, and we'd love to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I'll see you guys next week. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye.